I'm Arya Schwartz along with Rachel Galligan, and welcome to the Winsidr Show, where it's all about the W. This episode, we welcome two-time NAIA D1 national champion with Oklahoma City University and over 25 years of coaching experience, current LA Sparks assistant coach, Latricia Trammel. If you like our show, please consider joining our Patreon community, patreon.com/Winsidr. For less than a cup of coffee a month, you can directly show support for the hard work we do covering the W. And don't forget to see our amazing staff's written content at winsidr.com. While you're there, you can check out our overseas tracker. It's live. You can see where your favorite WNBA players are playing overseas all in one place. Coach, Rachel, Happy New Year. Welcome to the show. Coach, you got any exciting plans for the 2021 year? Maybe a WNBA championship is in up your sleeve?
Hey, that's always the ultimate goal, right? I mean, that's definitely something that we're striving for. But good morning. Thanks for having me. Happy New Year.
I say this every time. I always say Happy New Year's because it should be many more Happy New
Yeah,
Years.
Yeah, me too.
I like how you think. I like how you think. I'm gonna start saying that 'cause that's a good idea.
Well, talk to us a little bit. I mean, obviously, you got some attention when Vicki Johnson took over at Dallas, and there was discussion of her offering a position to you. You've been in the league, you've been in the college league, but talk to us about your journey into basketball coaching and kind of how you got to this point. I know it's a broad question, but share us, give us a little glimpse, a window into the coaching journey of you.
Okay. Well, I love Vicky. I know she's going to do a fantastic job, and I'm just absolutely thrilled for her to be the new head coach of Dallas. But yeah, I've coached at every level, I think, except for Division 3 and JUCO. I've coached junior high, high school, Division 2, Division 1, and then of course professionally now. But when I was growing up, I have three older brothers. There's a 10-year difference between me and my youngest, and two out of the three played college basketball. My middle brother Donnie, when I was going to high school at Seminole High School, he was the boys basketball coach at the time, and so I would practice, 2 hours with my team, then I would stay and practice a couple of hours with the boys team in high school. And so I would just honestly, I would see just the rewards that he um, would receive, just by being a coach, just the teamwork and making an impact in someone's life in a positive way. And I can honestly tell you that I know that I haven't wanted to do anything else. I drive to my passion every day, which I like to say instead of driving to work. And yeah, I mean, this is something that I put my whole heart into, and I just absolutely love what I do.
It's really cool. You have such a unique lens on just women's basketball with your experience and all the different levels in which you've been at, which I think is fascinating and want to get into in a little bit. But obviously now, I mean, you've transitioned a lot throughout your career. I mean, you've spent the majority of your career as a head coach. Obviously, we talked about you winning those two NAIA championships, which is huge. But what's that been like for the last few years, really, being an assistant in the WNBA, going from a head coach to an assistant coach? What's that transition been like?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's one good thing, that when you put yourself with other head coaches that give their assistant coaches some accountability, some ownership. I like to say that you're not just renting a position in the organization, and Coach Fisher has done that. I mean, he definitely empowers his assistant coaches to have a voice, to have some ownership, as I mentioned. And but yeah, at first, I will tell you, I struggled a little bit with it, and that was just me going from a head coach to even to a D1 assistant. But I know what those head coaches are thinking. I know what they go through. I know the tough decisions that they have to make that at times other people don't understand. And so I can kind of help relay that message to the players, and just other extended family members in our organization. So it's you've got to put yourself in a situation to be successful, and I feel like that I have done that being with the Sparks.
Well, and how did you kind of make that jump from the collegiate ranks to the WNBA? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, you're now entering your 4th season as an assistant in the WNBA. So how did you make that jump? I believe it was San Antonio at the time.
Rachel, you're not going to believe this. This is one of those things that's meant to happen. But when I first started my coaching career, it was at a high school, Midwest City High School here in Oklahoma. And I left there and took a high school job in Denton, Texas at Billy Ryan High School. And when I left there to start my college career, the coach that replaced me, Monisha Allen, she was good friends with Vicki Johnson. And I hadn't talked to Monisha in over 15 years. And Vicki contacted Monisha and said, "Hey, I just got the head coaching job in San Antonio. Do you know of anyone that would be really good or might be interested?" And she gave her one name, and that was mine. And like I said, I haven't talked to her in over 15 years.
Wow.
And so they reached out to me when I was in Atlanta and had some good conversation with Vicki and Ruth Riley, the general manager at the time. And so I went through like 3 or 4 conversations with them through the interview process, and she offered me the job.
Wow.
So that's how it all happened.
And here we are. Okay, that's awesome.
And here we are.
That's a really cool story how that happened.
Wow. And Ruth Riley, what a throwback name. Love it.
Oh, don't you love that? I still stay in contact with her. She's incredible.
That's amazing. We always love when, older school players from the W get brought up, and that's something Rachel and I always try and do is reach out to the older players who built this league and try and bring them on and talk to them. They just share so much wisdom of the origins of the league. But
I agree. Good for you.
Yeah, we try. Looking at this Sparks team that you've been a part of for a few years now, we spoke about you getting that offer in Dallas, but I'm curious for you, what about this LA team is so appealing to you? Like, you have opportunities, but what about LA keeps pulling you back in?
Well, just going through this process, we just have unfinished business. I mean, I know, we had this saying in college as a college coach that, you'll never leave if you stay, if you say you're never going to leave for the kids. And that's something that I'm going to say now. I just love this team. I think that we have a championship team. These players have been extremely good to me, and Coach Fisher has been very supportive. And when we were going through these talks about leaving or not leaving, I actually reached out don't get me saying between us. Between us, I actually reached out to a couple of players and just visited with them about it because this is we're in this. We're in it for the wins. Don't get me wrong, but I've always wanted to build relationships with players. And when I first arrived to the league, I had someone tell me that this is more of a business. You're not really into relationships with players. And I just chose not to do that. I wanted to be there for them, and it is bigger than basketball. And so I want to build those relationships. And so, it was really, I say it was a hard decision, because I respect Vicki so much, but I just love the Sparks and I love the organization. I love working with Coach Fisher and these players. And I just know that great things are going to happen.
So long story short, what you're saying is the players didn't twist your arm to do those TikTok dance videos.
That was all me. That was all me and Sydney Weiss. Oh my God.
You definitely brightened many people's days.
I've been working on them. I'm going to be a lot better this season. I'm just going to tell you.
I would love to be a fly on the wall watching you, like, sending videos to them like, "Hey, look, I've been working on this move."
Hey, you'll be surprised at how many they send me and say, "Get ready."
That is amazing. Well, you've kind of talked about this. Now that you've had time to reflect on this past season, I'm curious for you. Hindsight is 2020. That takes a whole new form of a meaning now that we're in 2021. But can you talk to us a little bit about looking back at this team? What do you feel like the strengths and weaknesses of the team were?
Well, I think just being in the Wubble in itself was a tough situation for many of our players. I mean, like I said, it was bigger than basketball, and having the opportunity to even get in the gym when we could. I mean, there's times that we would, as you know, would play every other
Hmm.
day, and we didn't get to practice that much. And then we had players that opted out that had a shorthanded a little bit, but it was completely understandable, and we respect their decision. But I think coming into 2021, this upcoming season, having all of our players, I think, like I said, it's going to be really exciting.
Well, you say that, but I'm so curious. What do you think the most importance is going to be? Because is it as simple as getting Shanae, Christy Tolliver, like getting some of the Vidiva overseas? Is it as simple as actually having the team that you thought you guys were going to have going into this past season, or is there going to be a little bit more complicated than
Are you sure you haven't coached before? Because that's
that?
that is really a great question, and it's so true. Yeah, we've got to have our chemistry. It's easy to on paper to look at our roster and say, oh my gosh, how can they not win a championship because of the players that we have? But there's a little bit of luck in there, and we've got to keep everyone healthy, and we've got to get everyone back on the same page and playing together and accepting their roles on the team. And yeah, so there's a lot that goes into it. But again, when you have a group of individuals that buy in, that works extremely hard, that empower one another, it'll come it'll come quicker.
All right, coach. So we kind of want to get into the mind of a WNBA assistant coach, and just kind of from your perspective, especially. But I want to ask you just about scouting in general and game planning in general in the league. Obviously, that's vastly different at all the levels you've been at. But what makes the WNBA so difficult to scout and game plan against?
The players, the physicality, the talent, in college, I think about really having to focus on like maybe the top six or the top seven, and they
Right.
usually have three or four that are just extremely good, as you know. But in the W, everyone is good. Everyone is at a high level, or they wouldn't be there. So you're scouting and breaking down film to what they're doing in the pick and roll, to how are they defending? Is their top foot up, or they have an open stance, or what are they? Which hand is up? On the closeout, the left or the right, to see which foot you're going to attack. I mean, it's so attention to detail. I mean, I always love to say that it's the little things that make the big things happen. And then in the W, it's more detailed when you're watching film and when you're scouting.
And obviously, you spend, I would imagine, a really great deal amount of time with the team, going through scout, talking about action, showing action. But how much time is spent one on one or in small groups? Is that something that you spend a lot of time with?
Rachel, I mean, it is nonstop. That's what I'm saying. You better love what you do. But I'm just gonna compare it to this past season in the Wubble. But I would get. You can ask any player. I'd get to the lobby of the hotel around 8:30 in the morning, and I was just available for anyone that wanted to come watch film. Now, mind you, out of the out of the number of players that we had, almost all of them wanted to watch film. So I like I said, I would sit there from like 8:30 in the morning up to practice time, which was usually around 2.
Wow.
And then we would go when we had that opportunity to go practice. We would be there for an hour and a half to 2 hours, and then I would also make myself available after practice. So I'd back in the lobby. I would go, and I would just sit there and work on my scouts, and then be there for any individual player that wanted to take the time to watch film.
I'm just imagining a player from another team like knowing that you're doing that
Yeah.
and coming down with like a
Yeah.
fake mustache or like like a disguise and sitting nearby trying to peek over and get some tips from you. Um, you've you've talked about player relationship. You've talked about the growth of this team, and someone who pops to my mind is Taya Cooper. She was drafted,
Oh,
cut,
love her.
signed.
Hmm.
Did you like? Obviously, you watched her college game. You know about her energy. You know about her style of play. But did you know so early on that she was going to break onto the scene like the way she did, or was there anything about her during the season that surprised you that she was able to do?
Yeah, I don't know if so much I was surprised, but it just her approach coming in and how confident she was. I mean, she came in like she has been there for several years, and I will give Coach Fisher credit as well for that, because just having that point guard mentality, he really took her under a wing and try to help her even with film sessions of what she should be looking for and how she needs to be the floor general. And so just watching the other players too, knowing what great potential she has in this league, watching Candace Parker and NECA and Chelsea, really just mentoring her and just giving her more confidence than she already had coming in. But of course, I love her energy. I love her personality. She fits in really well with our other players. And yeah, so I think the future is really bright for her. I'm excited about her.
Coach, I want to ask you, I mean, through your extensive experience, everywhere you've been, every stop along the way, obviously right now with where you're at, what down the road, where do you see yourself in 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 years? What is your ultimate goal in coaching?
Continue to impact and empower women in this game and help grow our game. Obviously, I want to be a head coach again when it's the right fit and the right time. That's something that I'm extremely looking forward to. But right now, I want to, like I said, continue to empower and impact these players in a positive way and help Coach Fisher and the organization win a championship.
Well, that's an interesting question, interesting leeway to what I want to ask, which is, as an
Uh-oh.
assistant coach. Well, no. Like, as an assistant coach, is your off season just like getting tons of calls from D-Fish? Like, oh, he's calling me again. He wants to go over. Like, what? You know what I mean? Like, what is it that you're doing during the off season to get better? Because I think in many talking heads or fans' minds, it's like, all right, we know the head coach is just, he doesn't sleep for 12 months out of the year because he's staying up late night, running plays in his mind. What does an assistant coach do during the off season?
Continue to grow, continue to get better. And it's funny that you say that, because we have a Zoom call the staff does right after this and talk about our roster and moving forward. And so, yes, we stay connected all the time. We're talking about free agency, obviously, and the roster and what we need to do to win a championship this upcoming season. And so we're watching college players. Like Rachel, I'm trying to do this analyst thing, so it's one of the hardest things I've ever done. I have so much respect for the individuals that do this, but so I've been able to watch a lot of the Big 12 teams just because I get to call their games, and so so we're always connected. Coach Fisher's always, we have group text messages, and so we stay connected. I mean, it really is a family atmosphere. And so if there's things that I see that the Wnba is doing, whether it be defensively or offensively, I mean, we'll shoot each other information. Did you see this particular play, or did you see what they did defensively? And that goes for the college game as well. So, yeah, and I'm also keeping in contact with our players. And I think that's really important. So at least once, twice, 3 times a month, sometimes weekly, I'm contacting them to make sure that they're doing well and to see if they need anything.
Awesome. I didn't realize you were calling games. Yeah, that's a whole other monster right there. But hey, at least you are getting to get really in-depth knowledge of the Big 12. At least for me, it's really tough to watch all the different conferences, let alone trying to find a way to stream them. That's a whole other animal within itself, but very cool. I mean, you're gonna have to let me know what games you're doing. I want to listen in. But I have a fun one for you.
Yes.
We are in the season that everyone loves to talk about expansion.
Yes.
It's a big topic on Twitter, and everybody wants a team in every city across the country. And I just have a fun one for you. If and when the WNBA were to expand, what 2 markets do you think would be the best?
Well, I'm going to say Oklahoma City just because I'm here.
I had a feeling.
And I'm just going to leave it right there with that. we got the Thunder here, so we should have a team here. Um, oh, that's a tough one because there's so many great places I think
How about Denver?
that would be. You know that I actually, Rachel, that now that you say that, I actually have mentioned Denver before because Denver is a great place, and I've lived in Colorado for 5 years where I coached and
Yeah.
used to spend a lot of time in Denver, and so that would be a really good place.
It would definitely.
So yeah, I would go with that.
It would definitely make my life easy. So yeah.
Well, I know it would. Yes, it would. Yeah, just like Oklahoma City, right?
Just stay at home during the away games when you're there, right?
That's right. We're going to speak it to existence right
Hey,
here.
if Angel McCautry is going to bring some games to Africa, why can't we bring a team to Oklahoma City? Yeah, I'm down
I
with
love
it.
it all.
I agree with you. I'm down with it. I'm with you. I'm with
You
you.
know, you've been around the league and you've been around the game for a very long time, and I mean that with the utmost respect. I'm curious for you, kind of how you've seen women's game in general, but also the W kind of evolve from its inception. You know, I feel like we'd be remiss. We are entering the 25th year of the WNBA. It's a huge milestone from my understanding. Maybe I'm wrong about this, and the numbers people will yell at me, but it's the longest lasting women's professional sports league. So talk to me kind of about the growth of women's basketball over the years and also the W from your eyes.
Yeah, I mean, it has definitely involved in a very positive way, and it's just because of these pioneers that we have and the current players. I mean, just their voices and the things that they're doing not only on the basketball court but just in society in general. And I think back when I was. This is hey, now don't start laughing, but just back in the day when I was playing in high school and in college, I didn't know exactly what was out there. I knew that there was, to play professionally, you could go overseas, but you weren't going to make very much, and it just wasn't really a big deal with the media and things like that. And I'm going to say to both of you, you've done an amazing job to help grow our game as well with what you do. But it is, I mean, it has grown so much. I mean, you can see little kids now, even the ones that come up to me, even at a college game that I'm being an analyst. There's little kids that's been coming up to me that have said one of these days I'm going to be in the W, and I think that's really special. And I don't know if that was like that. Many years ago, you know what I mean, when it first started. And so I got to give credit to the pioneers and just the coaches and the organizations that are here now helping to grow our game because I think it's going to only get better.
Rachel, I know you want to ask something. I just want to chime in real quick. I had a similar experience in DC a few years ago. The USA team was taking on the Japanese national team, and my wife and I are
Oh,
sitting there
wow.
watching the game, and it was at like GW or whatever, so it was a small stadium, and we're sitting there, and I turn to my right, and I see Brianna Stewart and Sue Bird just kind of standing there,
Yeah.
nobody bothering them. And so I'm just like, oh, cool. That didn't think much of it. We see them around. Not to brag, we see them around. We interview them, whatever. Um, and and then all of a sudden, one young woman saw them and
Yeah.
ran over there. And then next thing I know, I turn around and I still have this photo. It just came up on like the time hop or whatever it's called when your phone reminds you of past photos. And there was
Right.
a crowd of people surrounding them, asking them for photos, asking them
Love it.
for like to me, that's the growth that we need to see more of educating our young players. Like this is the ultimate goal. Look at these amazing women. Look at the hard work that they do and what they're able to accomplish. And to see that just, I mean, I'm not even going to like lie. This is pretty sappy, but it brought a tear to my eye. Cause like, so
Hmm.
one of the main things that got me into covering the W was I had two younger sisters and I wanted them to have
Hmm.
role models to look up to as opposed to just looking at the NBA or the NFL. Like, why can't you have a role model who looks like you? So sorry.
I love that. Good. No, keep going. I'm going to chest bump you. I'm getting no. That is absolutely fantastic, and you'll be surprised on how many little private messages that I get on social media, and this is no joke. I've had three this past week of fathers that have sent me a private message that has said my daughter is going to be in the W someday, and had a picture or something, and that's what we're striving for, and so I think that's absolutely fantastic.
Coach, I have one final question for you, but I got to know real quick.
Okay, right.
What position were you? I think I have an idea, but you talked about your playing days. What were you? A point guard?
No, I was a shooting
Oh.
shooting guard, and this is what's crazy. As a player, I didn't even know how to spell defense, and then as a coach, I'm so defensive minded. It's crazy, but as a player, I was offensive minded, and so that's. But like I said, I never wanted to play defense, which is absolutely crazy. But it's how things change over time.
Do as you
All right.
say, not what you do, right?
That's right. That's exactly it.
All right. Well, one day when our paths cross, I challenge you to a game of horse. I'm basically
I
unbeatable.
would love that.
Just so you know, that short corner jumper gets you every time. I'm
Okay, so now you're saying that, so now I've got to get my TikTok dancing. Now I've got to start getting to the gym and shooting more. Oh, things I've got to put on my list to
There you go.
get ready for.
There you go. Well, Coach, one more. You know, we love to ask our guests, our players, our coaches advice that they would give to the next generation. I want to switch it up with you. What advice would you give to the next generation of coaches, of young women who want to, or men who want to enter the coaching field? How to get in? I get that question a lot. Like, what's a good way to get my foot in the door? What's a good way to become a great assistant coach? Like, I want to coach. You've done it at every level. What advice would you give an aspiring young coach?
Well, I think about when I was inducted into the Seminole State College Hall of Fame, I was giving my speech, and the players were the women's team was sitting in the back of the auditorium, and at the end, I just remember saying to them, if and Seminole's a small school, and I told them if I would have been walking the halls at Seminole State, and someone would come up to me and say, you know, one day you're going to be coaching professional basketball, I would have looked at them and said, you're dadgum right, I am. I mean, that's the mentality that you've got to have. You've got to think that impossible is nothing. Yeah. And you've got to put in the work. I mean, that is something that's really big, but it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, what level you're currently coaching, or if you're still in college or whatever the case may be. If you have a passion and a drive, put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to be rejected. Make those phone calls. Watch practices when it's allowed at that time. Get on a Zoom call, and just pick the brains of coaches. And at all levels, there's some great coaches at the junior high level. There's great coaches at the high school level. There is great coaches at the college level. There are people out there that will help. And so, like I said, if you have a passion for it and you have a work ethic, I'm going to go back to saying impossible is nothing. Just put yourself out there and just keep working hard and surround yourself with successful people.
Coach, you have given us plentiful amounts of sound bites, inspirational quotes. I love it. We're so thankful for your time. We know you got some important business to attend to coming up with free agency, building up this roster. So we're really appreciative of it. And thank you so much for everything you do for the game.
Oh, I thank both of you, and thanks for having me. I'd come back anytime, and this again, thank you for growing our game, because you guys do a fantastic job.
Well, you've just doomed yourself to coming on here regularly. So
you may want me back after this next Zoom call. I'm about to be on.
Thank you, Coach. You have a great rest of your day.
You